In the era of Rava, the ancestors of the water tribe received the element of water from lion turtles, using it to gather food and resources. After the lion turtles renounced their roles as protectors of mankind in 9832 BG, the ancestors of the first tribesmen left the lion turtle cities in favor of establishing settlements centered in the North Pole, forming several independent tribes. A small group of these tribes resided within the swamps of the Earth Kingdom. The tribes within the North Pole were later united by a group of waterbenders who built a city as the capital for the water tribe. This unity, however, declined after a time of civil unrest, and because of this, a group of tribesmen journeyed to the South Pole to form a new tribe. This is how the water tribe split into the northern and southern water tribes, leading to a cultural and political division that continued into modern times. Once the 100-Year War was started, contact between the northern and southern water tribes was cut until after the war's end through the efforts of the Avatar and his allies. The governing body of the water tribes was led by a chief. The northern water tribe's governmental system was more organized of the two, with the chief having authority over the judicial system. The southern water tribe was ravaged by an attack from the Fire Nation during the 100-Year War, forcing much of the male population to take arms and assist the Earth Kingdom in their fight against the Fire Nation. After the conclusion of the 100-Year War, the southern water tribe vastly improved the organization with help from the northern water tribe. Due to its division into three parts, each part of the tribe has developed its own customs and methods to law enforcement. Where the northern and southern water tribes have differing judicial systems, the Flocky Swamp tribe lacks a known system of law enforcement and complex government. The only known laws in the northern water tribe were those from 100 AG, imposing major restrictions on women's rights that prohibit them from learning waterbending and choosing their own spouse. Members of the water tribe are fully trained warriors. The warriors of the southern water tribe, from what has been shown, tend to be non-benders, such as the case of Sokka and his father Hakoda. To make up for the lack of bending abilities, southern water tribe warriors utilize weapons created from their environment, such as bladed boomerangs, clubs, machetes with whale teeth, and spears made out of bone. They also decorate their faces in black and white war paint. Unlike their sister tribe in the south, warriors of the northern water tribe are all shown to be very skilled in their waterbending. These warriors are shown to be wearing black masks and 3 lines of red paint on their foreheads. Due to them being the more organized of the two tribes, the northern water tribe utilized armories that contained war rooms for strategic planning and storage for their weapons. During the course of the 100-Year War, the southern water tribe suffered many raids from the Fire Nation. When all able-bodied men went to fight against the Fire Nation in the Earth Kingdom, they were left very vulnerable. The northern water tribe, by contrast, was very well defended with their use of iceberg spikes and a variety of other man-made defenses against Fire Nation invaders. With winter being the dominant season of the water tribes, greater numbers of waterbenders tend to be born within the span of the season. Their native season is also when they are at their peak strength. They tend to be weaker in more dry and arid conditions, especially during the summer and spring. In the northern water tribe, it seems the inhabitants resided within the more robust structures that were made out of materials from the surrounding environments, such as ice and snow. Those living in the southern water tribe resided within more primitive huts that were made out of seal skin, with its interior being made out of various animal pelts and bamboo. In the center of these huts was a square pit fire used for heating and cooking food. Living in the frozen poles, the vast majority of the water tribe's food and resources came from the surrounding oceans and frozen tundra. Food that was typically consumed were stewed sea prunes of the southern water tribe and the giant sea crabs in the northern water tribe. Another common food was sea squid and and seaweed, which could be made into a variety of foods such as sea squid soup, seaweed cookies, seaweed soup, and seaweed bread. Those from the Foggy Swamp tribe similarly relied on their environment for natural resources and food, consuming things such as possum chicken, fish, and giant insects. Though separated for many years, the northern and southern warrior tribes remained in contact, joining together during the new moon celebration. The tribes would have little or no contact with one another during the 100-Year War, only re-establishing major contact after the war's end. In the northern warrior tribe, free choice in marriage was not practiced, as they were arranged by the parents. The southern warrior tribe, by contrast, is more lenient, allowing people to choose their own spouses. Even with these differences, the warrior tribes have a history of acceptance in terms of same-sex relationships, believing that what people want in their personal lives is no one else's business to interfere with. In the southern warrior tribe, a rite of passage is taken by the boys at the age of 14, known as ice dodging. Ice dodging is a sport where the boy must safely guide the crew through hazardous chunks of ice and turbulent water. Upon completing the ritual, the participants are given marks of honor, which are known as the Mark of the Brave, the Mark of the Wise, and the Mark of the Trusted. The art of waterbending is based off the real-world martial art of Tai Chi, which mimics the way that water flows, placing an importance on keeping balance within oneself. The people of the warrior tribes are a peaceful people, desiring to live in harmony and balance with the other three nations and living things in the world. This philosophy of harmony and balance is also embodied in their style of bending. Similar to the air nomads, they also hold a strict belief in using their bending only for healing and defense, rather than attacking and harming others. Waterbenders draw their strength and abilities from the moon spirit, and get their life force from the oceans that surround them. The yin and yang harmony between the moon and ocean koi spirits is a physical representation of what it means to maintain balance in the world. The inhabitants of the Foggy Swamp tribe use a form of waterbending known as plant bending, being able to manipulate water within vines and other various plants native to the swamp. As a sub-skill of waterbending, healing is drawn from restorative properties of water within an organism. It is known to be very effective on external wounds and injuries such as burns, broken bones, lacerations, and mental distress. The sub-skill also has its limits when it comes to internal injuries. Discovered by a waterbender known as Hama, this form of waterbending is known to be one of the most powerful and darkest of all bending techniques, only being able to be performed by waterbenders of extremely advanced skill. Bloodbending allows one to manipulate the fluids within the organism's body, hence the name bloodbending. Unlike the more fluid movements of traditional waterbending, bloodbending seems to require a more rigid set of movements, resembling the way a puppeteer controls their puppets. This form of waterbending was taught to Katara through Hama, who then fought against her upon discovering Hama's forceful imprisonment of local villagers. Under normal circumstances, bloodbending usually required a full moon to be used. Only a Cone, Tarlok, and Amon have been shown to be able to perform the art without the use of the full moon. Yukon and Amon were also capable of another form of bloodbending known as psychic bloodbending, which did not require the use of arm movements. Thanks to the efforts of Katara, knowledge of the art eventually became known to the public and became outlawed due to how dangerous it was to the user and those the user harmed. In terms of real-world influences, the water tribes took heavy influence from the culture, customs, and traditions of the Inuit peoples of the world. The environment of the waterbenders was also very similar to the vast tundra that the Inuit people inhabited. As previously mentioned, waterbending is influenced by the ancient martial art of Tai Chi, which is focused on body alignment, breath, and visualization. On a more personal note, I see my natural affinity being that of water, as notice that in my nature, I naturally move towards their philosophy of harmony, alignment, and compassion, and prefer to flow. And like their philosophy, I dislike resorting to aggression and fighting. So in that respect, I consider myself more of a waterbender / also airbender in nature. Comment down below on what you think your natural element is in the world of Avatar. And feel free to share what your thoughts are and why you think this is your natural affinity. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this second installment of the Avatar The Last Airbender 4 Nation series. Next up, we got the Earth Kingdom. Stay tuned.